بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وآله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهديه أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Today we're moving to hadith number 267, and it deals with the palm trees that people sell after impregnating or cultivating these trees, as we will come to explain inshallah. So who will volunteer and read hadith 267? Yes, Akhi.
Abdullah ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, reported Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam as saying, "He who buys a tree after it has been impregnated, its fruits belongs to one who sells it, except if the buyer makes a condition that it is his." In a narration of a Muslim, "And he who buys a slave, his property belongs to the one who sold him, except if the buyer made a condition that it is his."
Okay, the hadith is clear, but maybe we, as we do not deal in farming, we do not know what is impregnating a tree would be. Trees, as people who know the nature of farming, have males and females. So if you want to have a good fruit, you have to, as they say, fecundate or impregnate the palm trees by getting special types of material from the tree to the female tree, and then it would give fruit. Now, the Prophet knows, alayhi salatu wasalam, that the first priority for an owner of such a farm is to get the fruit. Why am I farming? Because I like how the trees look? Definitely not. I want something out of it. So the Prophet ﷺ is telling us that if a person impregnates his palm trees, which requires a lot of work, you have to go take it from the male trees to the female trees, climb up and do this and do that. So when you fecundate these trees, and then afterwards you want to sell the farm, the buyer, when he comes and buys it, after a month or two, when the fruit is ripe, it is not his. Now one would say, okay, akhi, I bought the farm 2 months, 3 months ago. Yes, you bought it 2 or 3 months ago, but when you bought it, it has already been fecundated by the previous owner. And the Prophet ﷺ made a rule so that we would not have any dispute. If you buy the farm after my work on it, then the fruits are mine. Unless, the Prophet is putting what? ﷺ, a condition. Unless the buyer knows. So he goes to say, listen, I'm going to buy the whole farm, but the fruits are mine. Now, the seller has the option. He has the option of saying, Ya akhi, but I did a lot of work in it, and I look forward for the fruit that I have done and worked for. And the buyer says, well, this is my condition, whether you agree or not. So then things are clear. But if they do not discuss this, after 2-3 months, there will become dispute. The buyer says, no, I bought the farm with everything on it. And the seller would say, no, I impregnated the palm trees, so I have to take the fruits. What do we say to him? The hadith clarifies this. There is no misconceptions, nothing for you to debate about. Buyer, did you make a condition? Said, no. Khalas, tough luck. Now, does this mean that every single year the fruit is his? For the seller, no, it's only for this one time because he worked hard in it. The second part of the hadith, it's also deals with the same concept, and that is, if you sell a slave, now one would say, slavery is banned. I said, yes, it's banned, but slavery was there, and slavery is not something that Muslims should be ashamed of, because people think that, oh, Islam promotes slavery. Does Islam promote slavery? There is only one means of having slavery, and that is through capturing of prisoners of war. If I go to Burma, where they're very poor, or Somalia, and someone comes to me and says, do you want to buy my son or my daughter? He is 7 years of age, 9 years of age. I'll sell him for $150. And he can become your slave. That's cheap. I'll buy him. Take two. Says, oh, you get one free. So is this halal? Definitely not. This is a free man, a free child. I cannot buy. The only means of slavery in Islam is through prisoners of wars, non-Muslims, disbelievers. So if someone attacks my country, I, with the army, defend my country, and we get prisoners of wars. What do we do with them? Send them to Guantanamo. No, we enslave them. Oh, this is against human rights. Well, them attacking us is human rights? It's okay, Annie? No, this is human rights. How? He is a slave. He's like an animal being sold and bought and not having rights. Yes, but this is for his sake. Come on. How can it be for his sake? When a surgeon goes to your son and cuts open his stomach to remove a tumor, is this for his sake or not? Definitely, he's bleeding, he's in pain. Yes, but this is for his sake. Likewise, this disbeliever who was an enemy of Islam, I can execute him and get it over with. But what I'm giving him is an honest and decent life. I feed him from what I eat. I clothe him from what I wear, as the Prophet ordered, alayhi salam. Not only that, the Prophet, alayhi salam, in the Quran and in the Sunnah, whatever you do, expiation, free a slave. So if I have intercourse with my wife during the month of Ramadan while fasting, this is a sin. It invalidates my fasting. What to do? Free a slave. If I'm driving and I kill someone by mistake, expiation, free a slave. If I tell my wife that I don't want you and I am not even going to touch you, you are exactly like my mother, then I feel remorse and sad, and I would like to continue living with her, free a slave. If I say, Wallahi, I will not come to your school tomorrow, and then I change my mind, expiation, free a slave. And it goes on, everything in Islam, free a slave, free a slave, free a slave. Does Islam promote slavery? Islam promotes freedom for slavery, but by living in our houses and looking at how we treat them and looking at how we worship Allah Azza wa Jal, this would make them accept Islam voluntary, because there is no compulsion in religion. And that is why the Prophet ﷺ said in the authentic hadith, I am astonished, I am amazed of people being dragged to paradise in chains. Who would be dragged in paradise in chains? Everybody goes to paradise willingly. The Prophet is giving us a metaphor. Because these prisoners of war, they were enslaved, so they were in chains. And these chains made them accept Islam and hence enter paradise as if they were dragged into it. So, this is not our topic, but you have to clarify things, because when people talk to you about Islam and you don't know the beauty of the religion, you will feel inferior, you will feel weak. So, yes, oh, I'm sorry, yes, Islam promotes slavery. No, it's not like this. And always turn the tables on their heads. Not physically, but so that they would say, oh, a terrorist, he's putting the tables on our head now, we have wounds, we're dying. Always turn the tables on them by asking them to look into their own books, their own religions, and they'll find slavery being bought, sold, not through jihad, through any means. As long as you can capture someone and sell it, then this is permissible. In Islam, alhamdulillah, it is the greatest religion, and if you study it, you know why. So, I have a slave, and my slave, I gave him 100,000 rupees or dollars, and I tell him, go and trade with it and bring me the profit. It's my money. He makes money, he makes profit, people give him tips, and he's getting richer. So now I want to sell him. So a buyer comes and he buys him. And after he buys him, I, the owner, come to collect what he owns, because everything he owns, the suit, the watch, the car, the pen, the suitcase, everything is mine. So after the man bought the slave, I come to collect my things. And he says, no, 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 no. I bought everything. What are you doing? He said, no, no, the money is mine. The shop is mine. The car is mine. The watch is mine. So the guy says, no, I bought the whole thing. This is not what we have agreed upon. The Prophet is telling us, now I'm going to clarify this issue. If someone buys a slave, then the money that the slave has goes all to the previous owner, unless there is what? A condition. This is what makes selling and buying in the halal. And that is why when I go into contract with you, many times we have partners, they have problems, they have a lot of dispute. Why? Because it was not written down, it was not clarified. After 6 months, yes, but I want to have my share. No, I have to have increase. Yeah, it's all in black and white. So the condition is very important, and that is why the Prophet belongs to the previous owner unless the buyer makes it a condition. So how much you're selling your slave? $10,000. Okay, but I will buy it with everything that the slave has. The seller would say, oops, no. If this is the case, I'm selling him for $100,000 because he's got my car, he's got this and that, and then everything is clear. When it's not clear, then by default, the seller, the previous owner, goes and gets everything that there needs to be delivered. Now, before going to the following hadith, I'm afraid we have a short break, and afterwards, inshallah, we will open the floor for questions, and we'll be right back.
Tawheed is Noah's Ark. Whoever embarks will be delivered, and whoever refuses will be among the losers. Tawheed is the key of paradise and the only way to salvation. To attain eternal bliss, to attain never-ending life, get in on the ark, hold on tight, and never let go.
Watch as Sheikh Salim Al-Amri explains the basics of Islamic belief and worship in Back to Basics tonight at 10 p.m. and repeat telecast at 10 a.m. Saudi Arabia on Peace TV. Peace TV presents over 100 million viewers at one of the largest peace conferences in the world, addressing a sea of spellbound spectators. Over 30 world-renowned orators on Islam with credentials impeccable.
The truth of Islam.
Deen is your way of life.
It is our duty, our obligation.
By following the Quran and Sunnah,
we will give the message to one and all.
With articulation exquisite.
Read the book of Allah.
Islam is the easy way. It's the simple way.
Remind each other.
The Muslim is not a source of harm for other people.
Collaborate with the people for good.
This is the call of Islam.
With the mission of spreading the truth of Islam.
Do what you can to spread the word of Islam. Wherever we are.
Live like Muslims.
Use your power.
Allah is saying, why do you need anything else? This Quran is self-sufficient.
The only book on the face of the globe, the Quran.
How a human being should lead his life is given in this instruction manual, the glorious Quran.
For peace to prevail on earth in Peacemakers. Next on Peace TV.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. So, many times we have partners, they have problems, they have a lot of dispute. Why? Because it was not written down, it was not clarified. After 6 months, yes, but I want to have my share. No, I have to have increase. Yeah, it's all in black and white. So the condition is very important, and that is why the Prophet says, the money belongs to the previous owner unless the buyer makes it a condition. So, how much you're selling your slave? $10,000. Okay, but I will buy it with everything that the slave has. The seller would say, oops, no. If this is the case, I'm selling him for $100,000 because he's got my car, he's got this and that, and then everything is clear. When it's not clear, then by default, the seller, the previous owner, goes and gets everything that there needs to be delivered. Any questions regarding slavery, regarding selling farms? Yes, Akhi.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum salam.
The hadith says that he who buys a slave, his property belongs to the one who sold him. So the property is of the slave. So why is it like that the property belongs to the one who sold him?
The hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam clarifies this. The Prophet said alayhi salatu wasalam, anything that a slave owns belongs to his master. So you have sometimes people owning a lot of slaves and sending them to work, not like employees. So I have a trustworthy slave, his name is Abdullah. Abdullah, take this 5,000 riyals, it's a capital, go and work. So he goes and invests it, and he makes it 100,000, a million, 5 millions. As a master, I tell him, give me 1 million, give me 2, it's mine. And the man is keeping something, and he's investing it, and he is making profit out of it. At the end of the day, he's still a slave. And whatever he owns is actually belonging to his master. And that is why he cannot perform Hajj. It's not mandatory upon him. Praying Friday, he does not pray Friday mandatory like everyone else, a free person. And so on and on. There are differences between that. Yes, Akhi.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam.
My question to you is that if you own a slave, he's a non-Muslim, and then he reverts to Islam, is it compulsory on us to free him?
Very good question. If we have a slave who's a non-Muslim and then he accepts Islam, is it mandatory upon us to free him? And the answer is no. Because him and his descendants are still slaves, whether he accepts Islam or not. Can we enslave a Muslim? The answer is never. But if he's been enslaved as a non-Muslim and then he accepts Islam, you're highly recommended to free him. But it is not mandatory. You can keep him. And the companions had Muslim slaves. Even the imams of the schools of thought had Muslim slaves. Abdullah ibn Umar ibn Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, his famous slave was Nafi' Mawla ibn Umar. And Nafi' was one of the great scholars of Islam. And he was a slave. So where a lot of the scholars of Islam, they were all slaves, and some were freed and some were not. Okay, let's take a question from the Sheikh.
An orchard, mango orchard, is sold for a period of 10 years. The risk is spread over a period of 10 years. So how is it validates vis-a-vis the Sunnah of the Prophet?
This is something that goes beyond my knowledge. If someone sells mango tree after being impregnated, and it takes 10 years to give the fruit.
No, what I meant to say, the output is on year-to-year basis, but it is sold for 10 years period.
If it's on yearly basis, we said that the first harvest, if not conditioned, the first harvest goes to the previous owner, the seller. Only one, but not every year. So the first one that he had impregnated produces in 1 year. The following year you have to impregnate it again. And in the third year and the fourth year. The first year that he worked hard on it, the harvest is his.
Sorry, my question is with regards to the Prophet's hadith where he said that the fruit should be yellow or ripe, then sold.
Very good. Okay, that's a very valid question. Now, the brother is saying, we discussed it before, that the Prophet forbade ﷺ selling of fruit until they ripe. And he was asked how it is ripe. He said becoming yellow or red. Now here, you're saying that the previous owner, he just impregnated it, and yet he is worthy of having it or keeping it. The issue is different. In the first hadith, what is forbidden to buy the fruit before it is ripe. In the second hadith, the buyer is buying the whole farm, not the fruit. He's buying the tree, he's buying the land, he's buying the streams, and therefore he is not being fooled, because the first one, I buy the fruit that is not ripe. After 2 months, maybe it doesn't become ripe. Maybe it has a disease, or snow falls and it dies. So I lost my money. In the other case, no, I'm buying the whole thing. So the fruit is part of the tree itself and part of the farm. And there is no problem in that, inshallah.
Sheikh, my question is related to my fellow brother, that you said that fruits must be ripe before they are being sold. But there are certain fruits, which we, like mango, we can have a green mango as well as yellow, the sweet one. And even in the gawa, what you call it in Hindi is Peru. So even we have a green and yellow. So what's the ruling on that?
Okay, that's a valid question. Now, regarding the mangoes, whether they're green or yellow, green mangoes are ripe, right? So you sell them and you eat them. Then the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is not only restricted to yellow and red. For example, green apples. If you have a tree of green apples and I'm waiting, inshallah tomorrow it's becoming red, so tomorrow it's becoming yellow, I cannot sell it, it's green. No, the color is not intended. What was meant is, when it is ripe, ready to be consumed and eaten, then it's permissible for you to sell. So I hope this clarifies the issue. Yes, Akhi.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam.
Suppose we own a slave which is a female.
If I'm the owner of a slave which is a female.
Yes. Aren't hijab conditions applied?
Does the hijab condition apply to them? The answer is no. A female slave to her master is like any of his wives. So the hijab does not apply. Any questions? Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Can we keep a slave who has not yet attained the age of puberty?
The answer is yes, because keeping a slave, buying a slave, giving a slave, it's like any property you have. A slave is part of your property. You can sell it, you would inherit it if you die, and you can give it as a gift. But again, this is not the topic we should be focusing on, in the sense that slavery does not exist anymore due to the weakness of the Muslims and due to not abiding by Islam and the Quran and the Sunnah. So let's keep it simple. Yes, Kareem.
As you said, that the right of retaining the fruits is for the seller. So does he have the right to increase the price and tell the buyer that if you're buying the fruits, then I increase the price?
This is a very good question, and this can only be applicable at the bargaining stage. The buyer and the seller. He comes to me and says, I'd like to buy your farm. And I say, I'll sell it for $1 million. He says, but I have a condition. I'd like to have the fruit. I said, in this case, I'll sell it for $1.5 million. He said, no, you have no right. I said, yes, I have. We did not make the agreement binding. We're still in the bargaining stage. So if the deal is done, meaning that he says, yes, okay, I'll buy it for $1 million. Here's the check. Okay, and I say, I accept, and we separate. Few days later, he comes and says, yay, I want the fruit. What would I say to him? I would say to him that the deal is done. The Prophet said, ﷺ, that the fruit are mine, because I did the work. So I didn't know. Sorry, the Prophet ﷺ's hadith is the final answer, and it is the ruling and the verdict that we should follow, and nothing would affect that, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. This is all the time we have. Until we meet next time, fi amanillah, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.